Georgia ranked number one in the college football playoff committee's initial rankings. I did want to go over kind of my view of the world on this thing, which is that I think Georgia's sitting in as about a good position as you can be, considering everything that the chaos that's going on around them. I think it's almost assures that if they were to lose to somebody in the SEC championship game, that they're still going to go to the playoff. So they're going to have to get tripped up before then, which I don't necessarily see happening. Missouri is horrible. Tennessee could be a game for a while. They certainly could lose at Tennessee, I guess. That's the only one that I see left. I mean, Charleston Southern, no, for sure. Tech, no. So, Georgia needs to get ready for the playoff. They need to win the conference if they can. But when you look around, everybody else, um, Alabama being at two, just to me solidifies that, if Georgia were to play Alabama in the championship game, that the winner of that game is going to come out as the number one, and that's what you want, because although in this case the travel is not that bad for Georgia between Dallas and Miami, Georgia would prefer Miami. That's something that people have been saying on the inside for some time now, and it's easier. None of it's great. I mean, you'd rather just play in Atlanta, but that's not how this works. Now, on to the other stuff. This is one other thing that's really important here. The focus of these first few weeks of the college football playoff, so long as Georgia keeps winning, and they're not. I mean, they're not going to be within a 3 touchdown margin of anyone in terms of their the build up to games on betting favorite, but so this is going to be about where is Cincinnati, where is Alabama, and what's happening in the Big Ten. So that's going to be the bulk of this thing. But one thing I did want to stress here that is important: only three schools in the history of the college football playoff has started the season at number one: Clemson, Alabama, and Ohio State. No, Georgia. So not Ohio State. So all of this talk for such a long time about those other three schools, it's Georgia that's been the one who's done it. In other words, Ohio State's done it as many times as Mississippi State. So those are the only two schools that has really been dominated by Georgia, Bama, Clemson, and Ohio State, Mississippi State have been the two who have checked in there. And the only team in this run, the only two teams who have started number one and never won a national championship are Georgia and Mississippi State. Everybody else, Bama, Clemson, Ohio State, they've all won the national championship. They've all played for it multiple times. So we'll see if this run here, what we're seeing here is a long time, and how what Kirby's been doing has built up into where we're at right now. It's not surprising. Um, it's just what it is, and you they deserve to be the number one team. The question is, moving forward, what's this next month going to be like for the Dogs? How much does it matter that they play well? It matters a lot. I mean, and then playing Mizzou this weekend, that's a big game only because you have the ability to develop guys. I mean, you need to see if JT Daniels is healthy, what does he look like if he gets the opportunity to play? How about guys like Marcus Rosemead, Jermaine Burton? Burton's been healthy. I mean, there's been a lot of guys that have not been exactly where Georgia wants to be in terms of health. Um, it's just not been ideal. George Pickens looks like he's not going to be cleared until at the earliest the SEC championship. Blaylock has the ability, possibly according to Kirby, to do that. Uh, Amir Speed. Um, this team has been a banged up team, and now, and I know Kirby and them won't talk about it like this, but now that they're at where they're at, and they have this season to go here, that will give this stretch of the season, that will give them the ability to kind of try to get healthy. Now, for JT, no, and really any player, but for JT specifically, he's been the most banged up of anybody besides Blaylock, who we expect to play this season. I mean, that Blaylock's not played is disappointing, but I think he's got a double-edged situation there with the recovery of the ACL and then the hamstring, It's hard to keep moving forward with one without affecting the other. So that's been Dom's situation. But for JT, getting out there and playing, this is a great opportunity here for this 3 or 4 weeks. You just don't ever know, though, when something can happen in a collision sport like football. And this is an opportunity now, though. You look behind the Dogs and you see Alabama. I think they got it right. I think if you want to make the argument that Michigan State should be the two, I mean, I don't have a problem with that, but they've not looked as good as Alabama. Um, and this is, Alabama has looked better than Michigan State through the season, but if you can't fight about who the 2 or 3 is, because whoever's the 2 is just going to be in home uniforms and the 3 in road. That doesn't really matter. The issue is Cincinnati, and if Ohio State wins, they're going to get in. If Ohio State wins, they win. They win out. They're in. Michigan State. Cincinnati and Oklahoma. Um, maybe not. I mean, to me, I was a little more certain that Oregon would be higher than a lot of people. Now, I've watched Oregon 4 times, I think. The Ohio State game, the UCLA game 3 times, and the loss to Stanford. And you know, they're good. They're not great. So that's one thing. And then, with Cincinnati, they're just gonna have to win games by more points. I mean, they're already got a bias against them. They're already at a disadvantage because of the league they play in. I've seen Cincinnati live. They're good. I think they totally deserve to be in the New Year's Six last year, and I don't know if they should be in the playoff this year or not. Excuse me, but I think you could make the argument they do. They have the capability. But like, look at Oklahoma. Cincinnati's played better, I think, than Oklahoma has, and Cincinnati's in front of them. It's just that Oklahoma could jump Cincinnati. I think Cincinnati's in a perilous situation here. They can't. There's nothing they can do that really wiggles them into the playoff. I don't think. I'm just saying this now, and I'm not saying it's right. I mean, there's no way Michigan State, Ohio State, and Michigan are going to fall apart. You very certainly could have that. What Cincinnati needs right now is Oregon to lose, Alabama to win, Georgia to win, and Oklahoma to lose, or there to be some chaos in the Big 12. They need chaos in the Big 12. They need chaos in the Pac 12. That's what they need. And they need the SEC to have an undefeated champion. I'm not sure that all of those things are going to happen, at all. I'm almost more certain that there will be an undefeated SEC champion than there is all the chaos. I mean, the Big Ten is not going to just fall apart. I mean, it's hard to imagine that. So Cincinnati's in a little bit of trouble. Wake Forest, Cincinnati, Oklahoma, and Notre Dame are the 4 teams in the top 10 that just don't seem to have a way to get in there. Auburn has a way to get in there, it seems like, but they would have to totally run the table and knock Georgia off. And even then, I don't know. Even then, I don't know. So the loss to Penn State for Auburn doesn't look so hot right now. Georgia's wins don't look so hot the way they did earlier in the year. Kentucky, Auburn, Clemson, Arkansas. Not great situations as they once were, but this is a Georgia team that's lethal, and we've still just not seen them get it all together. But to be number one and to be something only 2 other teams have done, and 2 other programs have done, and one of those programs doesn't look like they're going to be doing it anytime soon, is a major accomplishment. This is a Georgia team that's playing in the SEC. Haters going, hey, that's fine. But you know what it is, Clemson, right? I mean, after this year, you know what it is, Oklahoma, right? Kansas, are we going to do this again? No disrespect to y'all's programs, but disrespect to your conferences, yes. So I think, the top 2 teams being SEC teams, everybody can roll their eyes, but they know what the deal is. Like Jonathan Ledbetter used to say, they know the truth. And, the truth is, those are the 2 best teams the way I see it with my eyes. Would they win out? We can't know that. The only team that started number 1 and won it was Alabama from last year. But I think Georgia has a very legit shot of running the table here because there doesn't seem to be a power out there that's undefeated that can hang with them. When you think about in 15, Alabama lost a game, but we knew they could play with Clemson. And then a season later, those two were, arch enemies that season. In 17, there was no clear favorite. Clemson was the one, but they got their face kicked in by Alabama at the beginning of that. And the Clemson fans knew that they were in trouble going to that game in New Orleans. A year after that, you had Alabama and Clemson once more, but this time they were both undefeated, if I'm not mistaken. And there was a yin to the yang. We don't really have that this year. We sort of didn't have that last year with Alabama because of the consolidated schedule with Ohio State. Clemson and Notre Dame both had taken a loss. Probably one of those two teams, not both, should have gotten in, but last season was such a disaster. So I'm not sure who the obvious challenger is to Georgia outside of Alabama, but they will if they beat Alabama in Atlanta, which right now I don't think I'm the only one that expects that. Well, let's just see how it plays out, but I don't think I'm the only one that expects that. I don't see a clear cut team. I mean, Michigan State, no. I know they're undefeated, but no. And then Ohio State and Michigan are not undefeated. Cincinnati, Oklahoma, Wake Forest. You really going to tell me they're on Georgia's level right now? I don't think Cincinnati would be the group team that I would pick there the most. Right now, there is no clear path, of undefeated team or even anyone else. You don't want to make too much about there's Georgia and then there's everybody else. All right, but there's not an obvious foe to Georgia. It's just going to be whoever's in front of them that week. We'll see you on the website, dogpost.com.